In this video, we're going to talk about the real estate industry. So this is going to include all the sectors that are involved in real estate, um, the types of jobs, the types of professionals that work in real estate. So first kind of part of real estate uh, and the industry that kind of revolves around owning and operating real estate. Okay, so in the simplest sense, owning real estate is something that, let's say you're buying a house, you are an owner of real estate. So if you're buying the house for your own personal use, that's one thing. You could be buying the house to rent also. Okay, so you will be acting as a landlord. That's kind of a business use of residential real estate. So those who buy real estate to own and operate, this is a whole sector of the real estate industry. Okay, so this includes not just individuals who own kind of rental property, or some people own maybe a little strip mall retail property, but it starts from that level of individuals to mid-tier firms that kind of own like a whatever 20 unit apartment building or a 100 unit apartment building, and it goes all the way up to publicly listed multi-billion dollar companies. For example, Avalon Bay, you may have seen their properties kind of in cities. They own apartment buildings basically. And so it's a multi-billion dollar company that's publicly traded. So you could buy their shares in this company in the stock market. And so it owns properties all over the country, and so it's a very large institution, but it's essentially doing the same thing as an individual landlord, but just at a much larger scale. There are also businesses that are just focused on operating. Okay, so they may not own the property, but they will help the owner to manage the property. So these are property management firms. So there's a whole sector of real estate businesses that are just in the business of helping property owners to manage their properties. So again, this can be at the scale of helping individual people who own rental property to help manage, all the way up to professional management companies that are managing hundreds and hundreds of units for large real estate owners. Okay, so the property management business is also uh, works at different scales. What their job is to do is to usually find tenants, and this can also be for like industrial or other types of commercial property. It's not just for residential, but basically find tenants, fix any issues that kind of come up, like maintenance issues, negotiate leases, and just a host of other activities required to kind of operate a property. But hire staff, have a leasing officer, like a lease person working in the office, maintenance people. So they're going to be kind of handling all the operational aspects of a property, but they don't necessarily own the property themselves. They're just kind of an outsourced manager. Okay, then there's a huge industry of just buying and selling real estate. So though all the people that are involved in buying and selling of real estate. So these are real estate agents and brokers most commonly. A real estate broker is a professional who is licensed to basically be the intermediary in a real estate transaction. So this includes, representing someone who's a seller, representing someone who wants to buy property, and they basically act as a middleman in helping those parties negotiate the terms of the sale. They help negotiate leases, so especially for commercial properties. So if you were like a business that was like looking for space, so like let's say you were a clothing boutique and you're looking for retail space to open your boutique, you would go to a real estate broker and they would help you because they know the market really well and know where there are open kind of properties. They will help you find the property that's going to meet your needs. They're going to help you negotiate with the landlord. to get a lease that's going to work, and just kind of be that advisor for you. And in exchange, they're going to make a commission. Okay, a real estate agent is similar to a broker. They are licensed, but they don't have the same level of expertise and training as a broker, especially in the legal aspects of kind of acting as an intermediary. And so they work under the license of a broker. So a broker may have 10 different real estate agents working for them. Whenever the transaction kind of takes place, the broker is going to put their license as kind of the official one, as kind of the official middle person. But the agent is kind of just like a sales agent. It's like a salesperson selling things uh, for a owner. Okay, so the agent is on the front lines working with clients. A broker can also work with clients, but really an agent doesn't have the licensing capability to actually collect the commission, at least by the rules of kind of like the licensing of real estate professionals. So they're required to work under a broker. A commission is real estate. Is basically a fee that's paid to real estate agents and brokers for their services of facilitating the sale, purchase, lease of a property. Um, Typically, the fee is some percentage of the value of the property. It can also be a flat fee in some cases. And so there's two kinds of usually there's two agents involved or two brokers involved. One is going to be representing the buyer, one is going to be representing the seller, and typically the buyers and sellers agents will split the commission. In residential real estate, the typical commission is 5% total. So the seller is going to pay that 5% of whatever the it's 5% of whatever the price of the home was that sold. So it can be a substantial amount. And usually the broker who's representing the seller who collects that 5% is going to split it with whatever broker brought the buyer. Okay, so that's kind of how commission splits work. We'll go into more details about commissions and all that when we talk about residential real estate in that module. But for now, this is kind of this high level of who these professionals are. Okay, the other big part of the real estate industry is real estate finance. Okay, so these are the companies that help uh, the companies and institutions, I should say, that help to pay for the purchase of real estate. Okay, so this includes banking institutions and other lending institutions. So they're the ones that provide mortgages. Basically, this is a loan that's given to someone that wants to buy property that's secured by the property itself, so that if the borrower stops paying, then the bank or the lending institution can just take the property back to collect their loan. We're going to talk much more about this in the module on real estate finance, but this is a massive industry. Um, Capital markets. So basically, the money that goes into real estate finance oftentimes can come from capital markets. So this is the selling of securities like bonds. Mortgage bonds are a big example of this, where basically very large pools of money can basically go into real estate finance at a very kind of wholesale level. And that wholesale allocation of money to real estate finance can then trickle down and lead to kind of lower cost of borrowing for the people that are actually doing the borrowing, because it's like the capital markets are like uh, providing a lot of money to real estate finance, and since it's like kind of supply and demand, there's much more supply of money. It lowers the overall borrowing costs. So who are investors in capital markets? These are things like pension funds, mutual funds, uh, the investment funds of foreign governments. So, for example, the Chinese government, because they sell a lot of things to America, have a lot of US dollars, and they want to invest that money. So they oftentimes will buy bonds, including mortgage bonds, uh, endowments and foundations, um, corporations also who have cash will buy bonds. So these are all uh, investors in capital markets that will invest in mortgages, not directly. They're not lending to individual people directly, but they will invest in the bonds that banks and other lending institutions use to eventually give money to individuals. And then there's the GSEs, which we're going to talk a lot more about. These are the government sponsored enterprises, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. These are very large. They're the balance sheet of Fannie Mae actually is makes it the largest company by assets in America. It's larger than J.P. Morgan Bank. Okay, so it's the market for mortgages and real estate financing is into the trillions of dollars. Okay, these are massive industries. So the government has these kind of quasi governmental institutions, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, that are massive players in this in real estate finance. So just like there are brokers for buying and selling property, there are also mortgage brokers who kind of help people get mortgages. They will shop around with different lenders and help you find a mortgage that's going to work for you, both for residential and commercial property. And then capital markets, there's a lot of like investment banks are essentially in this business of capital markets, creating these mortgage bonds. There's a ton of finance professionals that work in real estate finance. Okay, construction and development. So this is another large part of the real estate industry. These are the firms that will actually build the physical structures. These are the firms that will buy raw land and develop them into whatever their highest and best use are. So this is also a really big part of the real estate industry. Um, there's different parts of it. So land acquisition, there will be firms that just are looking to buy land that are going to be good for development. And then there's developers who will take that raw land that's been bought and work with architects, engineers, designers to come up with a plan that's, for whatever they have determined is the best use for that land, be it office space or residential or industrial. So the developer is going to figure out what the best use is and then come up with a plan to actually make it happen, line up the financing to pay for the construction. And then there's the construction professionals. So these are going to be contractors who are basically going to build the physical infrastructure and buildings that are going to be on the site. And then there's also operational component to this, where after the thing is built, it's you're gonna need someone to operate the property, kind of back to this uh, situation here, which is the end of the development pipeline. So these two are kind of related because you're gonna build something and eventually you're gonna own it and you're gonna operate it. Okay, so this is kind of construction development. That's a large part of the industry. And then you have a number of supporting services to the real estate industry. You're going to have appraisers. There's a whole industry of people that and professionals that will basically provide valuation services for real estate. So banks, for example, when they lend, are going to want not the opinion of the person asking for the money, but a third party's opinion on what the property is worth. Because the person buying the property may be way too optimistic and may say it's worth $1 million, but a sober, disinterested third party may say, no, I think it's only worth 700,000. So the bank wants to know what the opinion of a disinterested third party is, and that's what an appraiser does. Inspections. Okay, so when someone is buying property, they want to hire a professional to go through and inspect the buildings, make sure everything looks like it's well maintained, and if not, what needs to be repaired. Um, the foundation, a roof, property condition. There's going to be inspectors for all this kind of stuff. The infrastructure, the sewage lines, the water lines, all that there are going to be inspectors and inspection companies that are going to be retained to do that. Legal and accounting. So there are uh, lawyers that are trained in real estate. So they help negotiate contracts for the purchase and sale of property, for the lease of property. If there's ever a dispute, there's real estate litigation attorneys. So there's a huge legal apparatus that supports the real estate industry. The same thing with accounting. So there are many, many nuances to, especially uh, tax law when it comes to real estate. So there are a number of accounting professionals that will specialize in real estate to support that industry. And we mentioned this in the discussion on economics, the idea of the importance of information in making economic decisions. So there's a whole support service of data, real estate data that exists, where there will be data providers that will provide all kinds of information on database, such as the occupancy of a building, who are the owners, vacancy rates, what units are renting for. There's going to be all this information is not super obvious. You can't just drive by an apartment building, for example, and know how much the tenants are paying in rent, right? This information is very important to a decision maker because if you were buying an apartment building on one street and there's another one across the street, it would be very helpful to know how much the tenants in the one across the street are paying because that will help you figure out how much the tenants of your building are going to pay. So there are data providers that will provide this kind of information. Also, just transaction history. It will also be nice to know in the last 60 days what are the prices of other properties that have traded in the market, right? So there's going to be a whole industry of data providers that are tracking all the sales of different property and kind of will sell that information to people that are interested. And usually that's investors, lenders, other real estate professionals that are wanting to know that information.